And I think if there were congratulations, then they would be issued now, because you hit everything there, didn't you, pretty much, on your predictions, and up to and including the conclusion with the call for a general election.
As you did say, he did say quite a lot in his introductory remarks, didn't he? I'm going to play myself down now.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Everything you mentioned came up, so you got a 100%
tick,
hit.
general election tick, Rwanda tick. So, yeah, happy days to me. Yes, it was, I think Rishi had some Weetabix this morning, hadn't he? Clearly been told to give it a little bit more welly this time. This is obviously the last Prime Minister's questions before the Easter holidays, before MPs go and break up. And obviously he has a crucial test later today when he's going to face his own MPs in the 1922 committee. So this is really sort of part one of the Rishi Fightback day. Stop plotting.
Rishi Fightback number 73?
Sure, exactly. Yeah, whichever number you'd like to say. But yeah, hitting, back at what has happened over the weekend about the reports of plots, about the reports of people trying to oust him. He's got to come back and say something. This has been the first time he will be in front of his own MPs. So in a way, it's really for them more than it is for us today. It's about a message that he's going to try and give them to say, look, I'm still up for the fight against Keir Starmer. And I think he did attempt that, but I thought, to be honest with you, I thought it was pretty poor from both sides today. I didn't feel either of them were
It wasn't vintage.
Fantastic.
Starmer had a very good joke about a sword of Damocles.
That was very funny when he was talking about Penny Mordaunt, who obviously carried the sword at the King's coronation. So talking about the sword of Damocles and her holding it over his head. Like I say, another reference to those reports over the weekend that it could be she who is plotting to replace the Prime Minister. However, I don't think that's very true for most of the MPs that I've been speaking to this week. A lot of them sort of shrug their shoulders and go, eh?
You wouldn't want to take over before the election,
Exactly.
would you really? Unless your ambition was blind. The challenge, it's a talk about a poisoned chalice.
Exactly. Why on earth would you want to be Prime Minister for less time than Liz Truss was?
The members, the MPs, would only want to propel somebody into that position if they felt it increased their own chances of retaining their seats at the next election, and it doesn't really feel as if there is any king across the water in that context.
I don't think so. I think Penny Mordaunt is quite popular with both Tory grassroots support. They seem to absolutely love her, and I think she probably does have a little bit more of an appeal among the British public, just in terms of her sort of general demeanour. I think she could appeal to probably more people than Rishi Sunak might be. He's not as much of a people person, I think, as she is. She's a better campaigner than he is. I think that's probably fair to say.
She came closer than people realised,
She
didn't
did.
she? This is during the last go.
Yes, I can't remember exactly how many MPs she had, but it was within a whisker of Rishi Sunak in the end. It was, I can't remember exact numbers, I think within 20 to 30 MPs. If either of them had gone the other way, then history could have been very, very different. So she was the runner-up, as it were, in that contest. So, it all could have been very different. So I think people are just naturally looking around who may be their saviour waiting in the wings. But like I say, I don't really think there is one.
So what, the prospect of PMQs being Groundhog Day for the next 6 months is quite real, isn't it? So Keir Starmer keeps pointing out things that aren't going terribly well, and Rishi Sunak keeps accusing the former lawyer Keir Starmer of having once been a lawyer.
Yep, and also not having a plan. We've heard that one before, and I'm sure we will hear that one again. You don't have a plan, Labour will take us back to square one. That's a line that they've clearly trotted out that clearly works with the focus groups.
Yeah.
It would be nice for us journalists if
we
they could
say
mix
that
it up
every
a little
week.
bit.
We say that every week. It clearly works with the focus groups.
They're
on 20% in the polls. Well, who are these
That's
focus
true.
groups that it works with?
Yeah, you make a good point.
Maybe they're not telling them the truth. Maybe the people have infested the focus groups.
Maybe.
They've kind of hijacked them. Because nobody's sitting there going, yeah, this is really great, you should do more of this. Because if they were, they'd be going up in the polls, not down.
And the Prime Minister, today had a bit of a better argument to talk about inflation, to talk about the economy starting to pick up, which is obviously the narrative that they want to start to talk about. But even it felt like he, was on the back foot on that today after Keir Starmer's questions about, the dire state of things, about Rwanda, about the amount of money that's being spent on not just hotels but all forms of asylum seeker accommodation, about the crisis in prisons. Alex Chalk, the Justice Secretary's face was he was trying not to show any emotion when Keir Starmer said to him, there's a report in today's Times saying that he was one of his staff was told, which would you prefer, let prisoners out early or stop people going to prison and stop people just letting people off at all. And that is going to become a really big problem for the Conservatives in the next couple of weeks and months, because as reports say, there's less than 200 places. They've got to do something, and they don't want to bring this bill forward for some reason.
And the backlog as well of cases waiting to come to court is still absolutely enormous as well. So it's a proper critical mass type scenario, isn't it?
Yep.
So what's his job tonight? What is he? Because he doesn't have to address the 22. Presumably someone's had a word in his ear and said, I think you should talk to the troops, Prime Minister. What's his job? What will he be trying to do? Just to sort of tell everyone to stop picking on me? Or
well, it will. So they will argue it's a scheduled meeting, and he does usually have these meetings with the 22 at the start and end of term. So they'll probably go, this has always been in the diary for a long time. It's not in response to the weekend's events. That's what they'll say. He has to convince them that he's the guy and to stop trying to plot to oust him. That is really...
But what are you hearing? Are there plots to oust him? Because we seem to be... Do you know the really strange thing? So I don't really care about any of it. Do you? Hand on heart.
I do care, yeah.
Really?
I'm
you can't
interested.
say no because you're the political editor.
No, I am
but
interested.
normally, internecine warfare, normally it's quite riveting and engaging. But with this lot...
This one isn't, I think, because everybody realised that it wasn't true quite instantly. I think everybody realised that Penny Mordaunt was not about to try and stab Rishi Sunak in the back, and everybody started, therefore, to go, OK, who is putting about this briefing? And it wasn't just one or two people. It was a few MPs, a few mischievous MPs putting about this. What I think the aim was to do was probably more to destabilise Penny Mordaunt as a potential leadership rival. So my eyes would really be on some of the other potential leadership rivals.
Lord. You've made it interesting.
That's
extraordinary. You've just literally made me think. Also, who's actually
who else? Come on, who else wants to be Tory leader?
Someone's trying to tarnish Penny Mordaunt
ahead of the game.
The most obvious contender for that position would be Kemi Badenoch.
You might think so.
Whose ambition seems to be dwarfed only by her. What was perhaps a nice way of putting it? Insensitivity.
Insensitivity. I'd say it's the opposite. She's a very sensitive human being, isn't she? But yes, is it her team briefing against Penny Mordaunt? Is it other people that might want to be Conservative Party leader? Suella Braverman might want to be Conservative Party leader as well. Is it just a bit of mischief being cooked up? Look, like I said last week, it's fair to say that the mood in the Conservative Party has really gone off a cliff in the last week or two. The way that they handled the Frank Hester row, being sent out on the airwaves to defend what many people say was the indefensible, only for Kemi Badenoch to put up that tweet and cause the whole government to go into absolute chaos and change the line.
And then to disown it with Nick Ferrari.
Exactly, and then to row back again and say, actually, we shouldn't give back the cash. So, it's a row that has continued to rumble on for them. And I don't think anybody's impressed with the way that they've handled this situation. Obviously, the government trying to come back saying, we've got a smoking ban to come forward. It's not enthusing Tory MPs. They're going, OK, sure. Give me something else I can sell on the doorstep. It's not going to be winning me votes.
Do you know why it's not a vote winner, that? Because so few people smoke. So if they were, oddly, if loads of people still smoked, then there'd be a lot more uproar about it, a lot more unhappiness, because they'd be like, how dare you take away my fags? That's terrible. Or my... But because no one's life is going to change at all. It's good policy. I like it. I think it's great for the country, great for the future, but it's not going to change anything in the short term. So it's not something you can hang your hat on as a policy offer. It's strange.